What's cracking, y'all? You are now watching Boo TV. Appreciate you for stopping in. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified, and let's get into the topic for today. What's cracking? What's cracking? What it is? How's everybody doing? Not too long ago, I put out a reaction video with some a little bit of a history lesson, if you will, the best I could do anyway, about Moses Malone. And I said this is a guy that I really want to continue to watch more content on, try to understand him more, understand his career more. Because I love how he plays. I love his mentality, man. And it's crazy how this guy is never mentioned. And you look at a lot of these statistics that people look at. He's a top 10 scorer of all time. He's top 3 in like free throws made and free throws attempted. He's one of the top rebounders of all time. I'm like Moses Malone is in a lot of these categories, but he's never mentioned. Dude has what, 3 MVPs? Pulling down like one season with like over 17 rebounds a game. Had a game with like over 20 offensive rebounds. It's like, this dude's a monster. Anyway, found this other video by YouTuber Johnny Arnett. I've done videos from this YouTuber before. Go check out the channel. And this is How Good Was Moses Malone Really? It's about 8.5 minutes long. And like I said, I'm happy to get to learn more about Moses Malone. Let's get into it. Mamba, shake and bake, baby.
Moses Eugene Malone, also known as the chairman of the boards, and for good reason. Moses was a dominant force offensively and an all-time great rebounder. Moses was so much better than many NBA fans realize, and there's a number of reasons for this that go beyond simply his production. If I had to pick the biggest reason, I would say it's his legacy's identity crisis. Throughout his career, Moses played for 9 different teams, which is extremely rare even for a role player. But for an all-time great player, it's almost completely unheard of. Just look at the amount of different jerseys and numbers that this guy wore. The thing is, when a player isn't associated with a specific franchise, it affects his legacy and means that he isn't often remembered as fondly because he can't be claimed by.
It's funny how I was just like, why is this guy never mentioned? And he brings up immediately at the beginning of the video, he brings up a good point. Why is probably a very good reason why this guy is forgotten in his legacy amongst people that especially people that didn't watch him play. Because they can't attach him to one team. That is, I've never thought about that.
One fan base as their own. Regardless of the reason, Moses is still criminally underrated. But just how great was he exactly? And where does he rank among the greatest centers of all time? To answer that, let's take it back to the beginning of his career. The 6'10 Moses was drafted in the 3rd round of the 1974 ABA draft by the Utah Stars. He was selected relatively late and straight out of high school, which wasn't a very common occurrence. In fact, at the time, the New York Times even called him the first high schooler to go straight to the pros in modern basketball history. He immediately proved he was more than ready. As only a 19-year-old in his rookie season in the ABA, Moses averaged 18.8 points, 14.6 rebounds, and 1.5 blocks on 57% shooting. This was good enough to make him an ABA All-Star in only his first year. The Stars eventually lost in the semifinals to the Denver Nuggets in 6 games. Unfortunately, Moses would not be enough to save the Stars franchise from their massive debt. The Stars organization folded, and as a result, they sold Malone to the Spirits of St. Louis. But he wouldn't get very comfortable there either. After only playing half of his second season in the league, the ABA and NBA merged before the beginning of his 3rd season as a pro. The Spirits were not among the teams selected to join the NBA, meaning Malone would once again be available in a draft. This time, it was the NBA-ABA merger draft, where he was selected by the New Orleans Jazz, before he was swapped to the Portland Trail Blazers for a regular draft pick. Before the Blazers then experienced salary concerns and then traded him to the Buffalo Braves. I'm honestly starting to feel sorry for Moses just writing this script. Malone's 3rd season finally began with the Braves, but they were only playing him about 3 minutes a game, which had the young Malone extremely frustrated. As a result, after only 2 games with the Braves, they traded him to the Houston Rockets for 2 future first-round picks. Moses was barely into his 3rd season as a pro, and he had already been claimed by 6 different teams. The good news is that Malone would finally find a somewhat long-term home with the Rockets, and the frustrated and determined 21-year-old was ready to make all of the doubters look stupid, and he would do just that. He played 80 games for the Rockets at about 31 minutes a game, and he averaged 13.5 points, 13.4 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks on 48% shooting. They eventually lost in the conference finals, but this was just a taste of what the Rockets and Moses were capable of. The following season, he averaged 19.4 points, 15 rebounds, and 1.3 blocks on 50% shooting. The only problem was that this year was cut short to just 59 games played when he got a stress fracture in his right foot, and his year was done. But when he would return healthy the following season, the prime of his monstrous career would begin. 1979 to 1982 was his best 4 years with Houston, and in that stretch, he averaged 27.4 points, 15.4 rebounds, and 1.5 blocks on 52% shooting. He also won the league MVP award in 2 of those seasons. This includes a performance against the New Orleans Jazz where he pulled down 37 rebounds in a single game. In the 1981-82 season, he put up 31.1 points and 14.7 rebounds in what was arguably the best year of his career. Let me put those numbers in perspective. No one in all of the years since has matched those 2 averages in a single season. Not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, not Shaquille O'Neal, not Hakeem, or Giannis. No one. Statistically, he stood out far beyond his peers. From 1979 to 1985, he won 6 rebounding titles in 7 years, including 5 straight. His 6 rebounding titles is the 3rd most in NBA history, behind only Dennis Rodman and Wilt Chamberlain. And his streak of 5 years is the 2nd longest streak ever, behind only Rodman. The insane rebounding numbers he put up were not a product of his era either. In the modern NBA, teams are averaging around 45 rebounds a game. In Wilt Chamberlain's era, teams were averaging anywhere from 53 to 73 rebounds a game. And in Moses Malone's era, teams were averaging around 43 rebounds a game. Malone's era put him at a rebounding disadvantage, yet despite playing in the era with the fewest available rebounds in NBA history, Moses still put up video game numbers. With all of this being...
That's crazy. And he playing that center position at 6'10", so a bit undersized.
Being said, when it came to elite teams, the Rockets were playing in one of the most top-heavy eras in basketball history. The closest they came to winning the championship with Moses leading the way was in the 1981 season, but they lost in the NBA Finals in 6 games to the Larry Bird-led Celtics. If Moses was going to win an NBA championship in that era, he was going to need an even more talented supporting cast. Enter the summer of 1982 free agency. After much negotiating, Moses Malone was heading east to the talented and powerful Philadelphia 76ers. Waiting for him there was the still lethal man known as Dr. J, Julius Erving. With players like Moses, the Doctor, Maurice Cheeks, Andrew Toney, and Bobby Jones, the 76ers were ready to take the NBA by storm, and that's exactly what they did. They steamrolled the league, finishing with a 65-17 record, and although many contributed, Moses was clearly the best player throughout, putting up averages of 24.5 points, 15.3 rebounds, and 2 blocks on 50.1% shooting. His year-long performance earned him his 3rd MVP award and his 2nd straight. Moses is still the only player in NBA history to win back-to-back MVP awards on 2 separate teams. Their dominance continued into the playoffs as they went on an 11-1 run throughout the postseason, including a 4-game sweep of Kareem and Magic's Lakers in the NBA Finals. In those finals, Moses absolutely destroyed Kareem and the Lakers, putting up 25.8 points, 18 rebounds, 1.5 steals, and 1.5 blocks on 50.7% shooting, and he was rewarded the Finals MVP. When we think of the era of 1980s basketball, we understandably think of Magic's Lakers and Bird's Celtics. But it's also important for us to remember that sandwiched in those years is one of the greatest teams of all time, the 1983 Philadelphia 76ers. Malone played for many years after this and was certainly productive, but this was without question the highlight of his career. He finished out his long-lasting career also playing for Washington, Atlanta, Milwaukee, and a return to Philly and San Antonio. In his career, he had 11 straight seasons where he averaged at least 20 points and 10 rebounds. He was a 13-time All-Star, made 8 All-NBA teams and 2 All-Defense teams. He's 9th on the NBA's all-time scoring list, and he's 5th on the all-time rebounds list. His game was made up of incredible stamina, and he played with hustle, heart, and strength. So just how great was Moses Malone really? Well, I'll put it this way. Many people compare the greatest centers of all time, and usually the names that people bring up are guys like Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Shaquille O'Neal, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Hakeem Olajuwon. I am telling you with complete conviction that Moses Malone belongs in that group. Let me know in the comments section where you rank Moses Malone among the greatest centers of all time. Thanks for watching as always. Make sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content.
That's a good point, man. I have to go back to it. That has got to be a major reason. It has got to. And it doesn't help as time goes by. People tend to have a short memory span when it comes to sports and tend to forget about some of the greats. But there's no doubt Moses Malone is one of the greatest centers of all time, man. And he has almost every accolade you could ever want in an NBA career. He has some different, yeah, he has some decent badges and jewelry and plaques on his wall, if you know what I mean. Dude was a beast. I mean, going into the finals and dominating Kareem Abdul-Jabbar like that, beast, man. Like I said, I love how he plays. Dude's a monster. Goes out there, handles his business, nitty gritty, tough, bulldog, snub nose. Like him, love him. One of the greats. Undeniable. You gotta start dropping Moses Malone name in when we talking about these greatest bigs of all time now. He has a seat at the table for one of the greatest bigs of all time. He can definitely sit on that table. Undeniably. And like he said, criminally underrated. Criminally. Golly, could you imagine how many rebounds he'd be pulling down in this league? I mean, he was undersized as a center back then. And nowadays, at 6'10" in the paint, he's bigger than damn near most people any given night. Y'all let me know what you think about it. Drop some Moses Malone context for me in the comment section, please. I would love to learn more about the man that is Moses Malone. All right. I appreciate you. Thanks for stopping in. And I catch you on the next one. We out, baby.